New York City FC dropped their opener at Charlotte, conceding a set-piece goal. It really happened. And later, in kicking it around, we're going to focus on a young man, a New York City FC family member who's fighting cancer. All on NYCFC Views.
Turn up your volume. Because you're about to listen to The Sick Podcast. NYCFC Views.
Collins approaches the shot, and New York City wins the first MLS Cup on their first try, and they're going crazy. Tiene el tiro y gol! Gol! New York City es el campeón de Major League Soccer!
The sickest New York City FC podcast. It's gonna be sick.
Welcome back, everybody. That's Roberto Abramowitz. I'm Glenn Crooks. We're back from Charlotte, where New York City dropped their MLS opener 2024 by the score of 1-0. 10th consecutive opening game on the road. That's remarkable to me. You know,
it's normal. It's normal. It's the way it has to be if you're starting games in March and now February, because there's something called winter, and they're trying to avoid playing games in extreme cold. So they're going to put a lot of the Eastern Conference games on the road. No, it's not.
Yes,
it's normal to protect the fans.
Before we get into come on, forget that. All right, forget that for a moment. Hold on, I've got a couple of things I want to say before we start. All right. Go. First of all, I found it very ironic. We were all sitting at dinner on the road, myself, Matty Lawrence, Roberto, and Ariel Hudas, and we started talking about comedians. And you brought up Richard Pryor. We talked about Robert Klein, and then we didn't talk about this guy, Richard Lewis. But waking up this morning and seeing the news about Richard Lewis passing away at the age of 76, I think back that he. I think of this guy as a genius. I especially remember his Letterman appearances, but I know there was a lot more to him than that. But he was, I watched Letterman. I was a dedicated Letterman guy, and when he came on there, man, it was can't miss.
Yeah, always. He was extremely funny. He was still working. He was on Curb Your Enthusiasm, and as a matter of fact, there's a scene that was, I think, on last week, that they're both playing golf, and Richard Lewis is telling I can't remember his name right now. Anyway, he's telling him that he's putting him in his will and he's giving him his money, and he's like, I don't want your money, and the whole thing. And it's just sort of ironic that might have been the last scene that was taped, and then that happens. Richard Lewis is extremely funny, self-deprecating, just hilarious all the time, and he'll definitely be missed.
Hey, I just want to tell one quick I have a Richard Lewis story. It's very brief, but I was flying somewhere one day, traveling, and as I was getting on the plane, Coach, I was going back to Coach, but there he was in first class. I went, whoa, that's Richard Lewis, man. So I had a New York Post with me. This is years ago, and on page 6, the New York Post reviewed, I don't know, it was either an appearance or a comedy club thing. I don't even remember, but it was positive. Because I figured this guy, I'm sure he's very much like his character. He's just like you said, self-deprecating. He was always hard on himself. But this was a positive review. So I just walked up to first class and showed him, and he was really appreciative. And I looked, he had a yellow pad, Roberto. And I said, can I just see what you're doing? I don't want to look at your jokes. But he was creating for a performance that he was flying to. And it was this yellow pad with scribblings and pages upon pages, and I just thought, wow, this is how he gets it done. It was really I always like seeing how people get their things done, whether it's comedians or whoever it is.
Yeah, I mean, I have a huge admiration for comedians and actors and people who can read lines and remember lines and do these things. I mean, you see some of these monologues, and guys who do, or women who do, one person shows on Broadway and stuff, and you just like, how do you remember all of this? It is just mind-boggling. And then not only remembering it, obviously acting it out and acting it out properly. The talent level is something that I will not even in my wildest dreams achieve. And so I have great admiration for people who can absolutely do that. I mean, I would need a teleprompter for everything. There's just no way
You
I
ever
could do any of that.
have you watched The Bear yet? Have you watched The Bear? Oh, you have to, Roberto. I'm recommending it to you. You don't have to. I'm recommending it to you. But for those who have watched it, it is really it's just an incredibly acted series. And now everybody's waiting for the next season of this. And I'm not going to go into what it's about, but the music on it, that's the reason I want you to watch it, Roberto, is because you will dig the music. I mean, from REM to Burn to, I mean, it was all over the place. But I remember at the end of every show, there's this great music all the time. And I said to my wife and then my kids, we've all watched it. And I said, God, I wish I knew what all this music was. And my son goes, they've recorded like season 1 and season 2 of all the music. So I was listening to that just this morning for the first time. Part of my being in a good mood. The other part is because the last 2 minutes of my shower this morning, I turned on the cold water.
Oh, you're doing this. Okay.
The other story I want to tell of the 4 of us sitting at dinner in Charlotte was I had read this article in Sports Illustrated, cold immersion, which athletes have been doing this for years, icing down after games and things like that. But it also talked about the normal individuals or those that are not professional athletes or athletes at all, and how the cold plunge, as they called it, although you can kind of fake it with a cold shower, adds to your mood. Because it's dopamine, it's science, it affects the brain in a very positive way. So here's my what I would say here, because I had mentioned it to my daughter. She goes, "Oh, I do cold plunges." I said something to my wife, and she said, "Oh, I've been doing this cold shower for a couple of months." I'm like, "Why didn't anybody tell me?" And but I presented it to my our broadcast quartet, myself and 3 others, and I would have to say it was dismissed rather handily by everyone at the table. But I want to tell you, Roberto,
not dismissed. Okay,
you led the way in the dismissal.
Yeah, so, hold on. No, it's just something that I wouldn't do.
Let me finish. Matty Lawrence, my partner, texted me a couple of days later. He felt that maybe we weren't that people at the table were not very supportive of this because I was presenting it as a health benefit. And so Matty Lawrence, as of 2 days ago, is doing this. And he said it's incredible how much better he feels when he gets out of that shower or cold plunge and then goes on with the rest of his day. So there.
Okay, good. I was just saying that we weren't dismissing it for you and the effects and the positive effects that it's having on you. We could just see, your wonderful personality right now and your positivity just shining through here. So I'm not dismissing it for you. I was just saying that it's probably something that I wouldn't do. Maybe at a later date, I'll change my mind and I may try this. Now, let me just say one other thing, okay?
You're a little more accepting of it. That's good.
Okay, well, that's good. We've gone 8 minutes and 35 seconds of a New York City football soccer show, and we haven't talked about the
if we don't talk,
which just volumes about the game.
It's our podcast. If we don't talk about anything New York City, who cares? It's our podcast.
Well, it is New York City views, right? NYCFC views, but yeah.
It's our podcast. It just
talks volumes about what we thought of the game.
It is not New York City FC's podcast. But we know they don't own it. We know very important people within the club will watch and listen to us each week and trying to get an idea of what we might say about certain things. I'm not sure. I'm gonna start with corner kick.
Did you get spanked again?
I'm going to talk about corner kick goals conceded. Here's a couple of things for you, Roberto. Charlotte was dead last in MLS with 3 set-piece goals in 2023. Now, guaranteed, you can work on it, bring in different players. You can be better at it. But they were dead last in MLS in set-piece goals in 23. New York City was near the bottom of MLS, having conceded 11 set-piece goals. And we know that they worked diligently on this in preseason. So here's how Charlotte won the game. Let's run this.
Here's the corner taken by Vargas. From post, here's the header and the follow. And off a set piece, New York City trails 1-0. Free header on the first post. Off the bar. Rebound goal. And inside of 8 minutes, New York City trails. Set piece defending. Nick Cushing, both hands in his stadium jacket pockets, just looking out onto the pitch. Santi Rodriguez animated as he comes directly to the sideline to talk to Mehdi Belushi. Absolutely perplexed is Santi Rodriguez. The fireworks go off, and in more ways than one. The goal for Charlotte, they've had the advantage from the start. And then a little smoke and flame and fire for the fireworks after the goal.
Yep. So what do you think, Roberto?
I mean, the one thing that was emphasized, right, is set piece defending, set pieces, offensively, and two things that failed for New York City. It was an interesting goal. Some people were saying, well, if you had somebody on the first post, on the near post, maybe that doesn't happen. Well, where that ball was placed, that it went off the crossbar, and Matt Freese was there, that wouldn't have mattered. What did matter was Tavares getting away from the defense. Keaton Parks was the one closest to him. And it wasn't, a height thing, because Tavares actually winds up ducking to make that, to be able to head the ball. And then Malanda comes in, opportunist, and puts it in. Yeah, they've got to figure this out. I mean, it can't be. I don't know what else to say. I'm not a set piece expert. I can't tell you if you had done this or you did that, it would have fixed it. All I know is that there are guys there who are supposed to be able to do this, and they've got to figure this out as a team. And I'm not blaming one particular person or coach or anything else. I'm just saying is that as a team, they've got to figure this out, because this can't continue throughout the season. It's a one-off. I'm not going to go crazy on it. But if this continues the pattern of last year, then it's going to be a huge problem.
Well, let's listen to Nick Cushing on it, and he tended not to blame any one individual. I will say my broadcast partner, Matty Lawrence, suggested, because you said no one was in that near post area or only Keaton Parks. Actually, Kevin O'Toole was right there. And for whatever reason, he just faded upfield a little bit during the course of this. But I asked Nick Cushing, this is part of my pregame show coming up on the New York City FC network ahead of the St. Louis match.
Almost conceded last year, and if you take away half of those set piece goals, I mean, you're sitting in a favorable concession stance in all of MLS. So the question is, what happened? It looked a little disorganized, maybe, that the player got free for the header at the front post.
Yeah, we just opened the space, I think. We've reviewed it, and I think we just opened we don't want to open the front post space that much, and we just opened it. We got caught with a run, and it's far too easy. It's something that I'm really disappointed with, because I think we played well in the game, well enough to get something out of the game. We dominated the game in the sense of the intensity and having the ball. It's disappointing because of the way we started last year. It shines a light on it, but I think it's set pieces are an important part of the game, and we're on the wrong end of that at the moment. So we've got to make sure we fix it, and we fix it quick, because the good part is we probably didn't fix it quick enough last year, and last year has given us, we've done a lot of work on it this week. We've had a lot of focus on it. It's an area that we have to get control of.
I thought the oddity was normally you have the front post covered defensively, zonally. I just could recall it was Castellanos and Parks or Sands, and I know Sands cleared one. Maybe the next corner he was in that position. So is that where it broke down?
Yeah, I think we've had 2 or 3 different people do that role, and I think you can see in the second corner James heads it away. I think it's not just one person. You've got to not open the space, but you've also got to block the runs. You've also got to go and compete and win the header. So whether it's one of the 4 guys that's at the front, it's not about the blame game. It's more about how we make sure that I think last year we were disappointed in the amount of corners we were giving away, because against teams like Nashville, when we conceded in the first game of the season, and Chicago, when we conceded from the wide free kick, they've got players that are really strong this year. We didn't give so much away, but we still conceded from the one of the 2 that we conceded. It just seems to be, an area that we just have to keep plugging away at. We know with this new team that we've added new bodies, we've shifted around the organization and the setup, and we're going to have to still plug away and just keep focusing on it and working hard at it.
There's only one new player in the starting 11, Hannes Wolf. I don't know what his role on that corner kick defending was. And I think the key to that entire minute and a half clip, you have to compete to win the header. Mm-hmm. And I wonder, you compare the New York City players in those situations to maybe some other teams where this is I think modern day coaching, getting angry and screaming and yelling again with the modern day athlete, it generally is not going to work. But this is one of those where I would start throwing whiteboards and water coolers around. And I know you said it's a one-off, not to me. It's not a one-off to me. And by the way, do you think in preseason, if Santi Rodriguez had maybe scored a few more goals and maybe there was a win or two in there, that one from the penalty spot, he might have slotted home because he was, comfortable finishing, which I think he had one goal in preseason. That's a whole nother matter. But, these things this all matters. So preseason does matter. I know it matters from a developmental standpoint, building the team, trying to get them to play the way you want to play. But these are examples of where I think results matter, no matter when you play.
And I'll continue to disagree, but we won't go back to that point.
No.
What I will go back to, do you remember what was the first goal that was conceded by New York City in preseason?
Yeah, with Bakrar on the front post.
On a set piece.
Yeah.
And that's sort of like set the alert. And from, by the way, what side? The right side. Yeah. Same area. So, yeah, they've got to work on that, and they've got to be able to figure that out and how they're going to be able to defend that better going forward. So that is an area still of concern. We had hoped that it wouldn't be an area of concern for New York City. But look, it was scored in the 8th minute, right? So you had, according to my calculations, 82 minutes to be able to make up for it. And although New York City, you had the possession and all of that, we've talked about this a long time, and I've told you the importance of possession, at least in my point of view. And
well, you win.
It isn't the fact that you have the ball; it's what you do with it.
But and listen, Roberto, I want you to finish that because there's much validity to what you're saying there. Because look, New York City had 77.4% of the possession in the final 15 minutes of the first half. They had 73.9% possession over the final quarter hour of the match. They had 62% possession for the game and lost 1-0.
Yeah.
So you're right. It's what you do with the possession. And and they knew, New York City knew, Nick Cushing said it in my pregame, that Dean Smith, they're going to, if they get the early lead, they're going to just tumble numbers behind the ball and get a counterattack here and there. And that's exactly what they did. And they actually clogged the middle of the field. They allowed New York City to push the ball out wide, which we noticed. And then we also noticed that the service from both Kevin O'Toole and Misha Ilinic was, you'd have to say, poor, inconsistent at best.
Oh, yes. I mean, you're being nice with it. It was. I mean, how many header attempts did Bakrar get, or did anybody else going into the box get that were good, clean attempts that you were like, wow, that was close? I don't remember any.
But you know what?
These are the plays that I remember. Okay, here are the opportunities that I remember. The biggest one is Santi Rodriguez from the penalty spot. Right, the ball comes back to him. He's alone, nothing. He leans back and he tries to put so much power into it that it would have been a great field goal. The Panthers might be interested in scouting him. So that's one. The next one that comes up for me as far as a great opportunity was at the end of the game where they put it on a platter, although he's a little bit covered, but he had room for O'Toole to fire one time with his right foot. And he decides that he doesn't trust his foot and he needs to put it on his left. And by that point, he gets closed down and he's got to pass the ball back. Doesn't even get shot off. and he's got to pass the ball back. And then Talles Magno had 2 opportunities on the left side, and one of them was stopped by a defender, and the ball just like bounced up in the air, and it was an easy save by Kalina. So those are the major opportunities. So when you're talking about crossing the ball and being huh?
One more.
Okay, go.
The Santi Rodriguez through ball to Hannes Wolf, who broke in on goal, and then a tremendous tackle from Rivet from behind, got the ball. There was some claims of a penalty in the first half, but that was a beautiful release by Rodriguez to Wolf, and a great tackle.
Yes, thank you. I now remember that one. That was great too. Okay, but you look at all this, and they've got to find a different way, and maybe the different ways with different players. So now you have depth, because Julian Fernandez didn't contribute much in this game. Santi Rodriguez, who's supposed to be your left wing, is really cutting inside, which left O'Toole to go forward and O'Toole to be able to provide the service, and that wasn't great either. So now what you're going to wind up doing is, do you put in a true winger? If you do that, do you put Santi back at the 10 and you put Wolf back on the bench, or not back on the bench, but you put Wolf on the bench?
No chance. So Hannes Wolf is starting the game. Okay, so don't talk about Hannes Wolf not being in the 11.
I presume he would. I'm just saying, here are the possibilities if you wanted, because you're not going to keep Santi out wide, just wide left, because you need Santi to be floating around. That's what he does. He finds the spaces, he finds the ball, and he starts the attacks.
But both the wingers on either side, with the possible exception of Fernandez, they're all inverted. Here's what I think you're going to see. You want to hear what I think you're going to see?
Okay.
And Nick has not told us anything about the lineup. So this is completely a conjecture, educated guess, you might say. I think the biggest question is, does he take Jovan Mihajlovic and play Mijatovic at the start of the game, which would put Hannes Wolf on his right and would put Santi Rodriguez on his left, and team Mijatovic with Monsef Bakrar? Because we saw that. I wasn't surprised or shocked, but to see the 2 strikers working together when Mijatovic was going in, I thought he was going in for Bakrar, the substitution.
So did I.
But he came on, and here we see the 2 strikers playing together right off the bat in game 1. So I think everyone on the sporting side would like to see that soon, a little bit more frequently. So the funny part about that is that throughout the preseason, the chances that we got to speak with Nick, it was sort of like he dismissed that actually really happening. It wasn't really part of his scheme, but then it wound up happening in game 1, and I think that he likes the possibilities. But here's the thing that happened also within the game, because, and this is something that Mijatovic is going to have to learn, and that is he's got to be a little bit more aggressive. He's got to find the game a little bit more inside, because if you're going to have Bakrar on top and then him behind him, then he's got to be a lot more centered. And he wasn't as centered. He wasn't in that position as much as he was either way behind or floating to the right wing. There were a lot. I mean, you didn't see him as a second striker for most of the time that he was on the field. And it was a little bit of because I asked Nick about it in the press conference. And if I remember correctly, he said that he's got to sort of find his game and be a little bit more aggressive, and more sure of himself. It's just his first game, and he hasn't gotten a lot of a lot of practice time either. So they've got to be able to work him in and, have him play the way they want him to play, because he's strong, he's big, he's fast, he's quick. There's a lot of positives. He's got to be there. He's got to be in the box to be able to take advantage of those features that he has. Look at that face. Now, we saw him on the road, Roberto. I don't know about you, but when I look at him and he's not, when he's smiling, it's different. But when he's just got that face on, he looks like that guy in high school that you used to avoid. You didn't want to walk past him in the hallway. This guy is regarded as a bulldog in the area. I think we're going to see, and of course, we talked about it last week. He came out with the very precocious 18-year-old comment that be ready to start cheering because I'm going to score a lot of goals. Didn't, after coming into the 62nd minute, as Nick Cushing said after the game, he said, why wouldn't I use him? We bought this guy to come in and score goals, so we needed a goal, so I brought him in because there was some surprise maybe that he brought him in so early in a critical situation. And then, so that's an 18-year-old that played. There was a 15-year-old, rather 16-year-old. He had just turned 16 that played in the game too, Nemfisha Berkemes, who you'll see him here with James Sands. And you talked about Magno, that one shot that was kind of deflected and just bounded high in the air and was caught. It wasn't a defender. It wasn't a defender. It was this kid coming out of the midfield, backtracking, that got into Magno as he was looking to cut it against the grain and get the right-footed shot off. This is the kid. He ran about 40 yards to defend that. So that's the kind of action that he brings to the table. And as far as James Sands is concerned, not on the U.S. men's national team preliminary roster for the CONCACAF Nations League. So he's not playing, in March when they play this game against Jamaica, although Tavon Gray may very well be because he is on the roster for Jamaica.
Oh, he is, and he was starting regularly. So I want to go back to Mijatovic for a second, okay? So he played 28 minutes, right? And the 28 minutes, he had 8 touches, one of them in the opposition box where he was dispossessed. So he's got to be more involved. Then it's just game 1 and he's 18. There's a lot of things going on there. So I'm just stating what happened and what he's got to do. And that is be more aggressive and assertive, which seems to be his personality. But now that he's on the field and they're giving him a chance to do this, he's got to assert that now.
Right.
Where that's his opportunity.
I have this feeling. I'm much less concerned about him being aggressive and getting into the game and getting into the play after making his debut and maybe getting his feet wet a little bit there than I am about this set piece defending. I mean, that's the thing that I'm going to go back, compete and win the header. If I were able to walk into that locker room and start shouting, that's what I would say. Compete and win the header. You gave up too many of these set piece goals last year. You lost opener this year because of it. Compete and win the header at all costs. Are you willing to do that? And that's what I'm going to say.
Okay, well, here's something else that we got to talk about. Now, you talked about defensive set pieces. Now let's talk about offensive set pieces, okay? So in direct kicks, I did a little research. Didn't take a lot, mind you, but I did a little research. And I believe I shared it. So it is now, including last game, 74 MLS regular season games, not counting playoffs, not counting Leagues Cup, not counting Campeones Cup, no. Just MLS regular season, 73 games since the last free kick goal, which is Goody Torarinson in Atlanta. Okay. New York City, despite having David Villa.
October 16th, 2021.
Yeah. So New York City having David Villa, having Pirlo and all the other, players that had, decent chances to score free kicks. I mean, Pirlo was a master at it in his prime. He only scored 1 with New York City. Villa has 3, and he's a leading all-time scorer as far as free kicks are concerned with 3. New York City has 11 goals in 9+ seasons on direct free kicks. That's it.
Yeah. And
that's it. You got to fix it.
And it looks like for the second straight year, Santi Rodriguez is number 1 in the direct free kick in goal scoring territory taker. And he hit the middle of the wall. And I think we've been, on his one attempt. And, our guest coming up in a little bit in kicking it around is a very good free kick artist, and we're going to talk to him a little bit about that. But this is, I think it's to me, it's a chief concern. Like nobody scores a million of these. Let's face it. But and some are better than others. Zelarayan, there's not many Zelarayans that have passed through MLS. They're just not.
That Messi guy can hit one too.
Yeah, okay, leave him out of this.
He's in the league. I can't.
All right, and Almada, we know that he can take a good one, but it's I think the days of Sandy Rodriguez taking the direct free kicks in the goal scoring territory. Is there can Hannes Wolf take it? I don't know.
There's got to be a challenge. So somebody's got a challenge for that position. And didn't Coufret take a few last year as well? So Coufret took some.
Well, you have to have
there were a couple of times.
You have to have somebody in the preferred left-footed side to take it. I thought it was interesting when I was talking to Frank Klopas, the Chicago Fire coach. Now they've got a different dilemma. They have two very good set-piece artists. One is Shaqiri, DP, and then they just brought in Kellen Acosta. So I asked Klopas, who's taking a free kick? And how are they deciding that? He goes, well, it depends on where the ball is. But I said, come on, give me some more. Shaqiri's giving up free kicks? Come on, man. But so that's going to be interesting to watch. But who on the left side? Julian Fernandez has taken corners from that side for in-swingers. But I don't know if we've seen him on a free kick. Maybe we have. I don't have that in front of me. But
and they're going to have to also get better service as far as corner kicks are concerned. So, we'll see if there are any changes there. I'm very interested to see the lineup and the tactics that Nick comes out with against St. Louis. Now, St. Louis played during the week, and they played in Houston, and they lost 1-0, and that means that they're out of the CONCACAF Champions Cup. They had taken a 2-1 lead at home and then went to Houston and played really poorly in Houston. There was nothing about that game from St. Louis that made you think, oh, my God. Watch out. It wasn't like, they had so much bad luck or, none of it. They were just outplayed. It was just simply outplayed. And I know that they didn't put their full starting 11 at the beginning, but by the end of the game, with enough time to go, they had most of their top players, but they still didn't create much danger. And it's going to be a very interesting game come Saturday at 8:30 New York time.
Bradley Carnell is their head coach. I pulled a couple of quotes after that CCC game and loss. He said, I feel sorry for the guys, the effort that they put in, but these are new situations for us. And these are new situations for me as a coach as well. We're always learning. I found that pretty interesting, that maybe he would have handled it a little differently, but he was talking, and then his next comment was about, all these games in quick succession. And he said, everyone's running on fumes at the moment. Yeah. I mean, we're just getting started here.
But we saw that, right? I mean, we saw that firsthand with New York City when they were in the Champions League, and how that wound up affecting them, and they had a poor start in MLS. We saw what happened to Seattle the year that they won the Champions League when they beat Pumas in the final. It's been the only season that they haven't made the playoffs. So it absolutely affects the teams because the rosters aren't big enough or don't have enough quality. This is one of the places where the salary cap absolutely hurts MLS teams. So, and so far, MLS has not really wanted to address it.
Well, they just had the committee just met the other day. I mean, that was news on Tuesday, I think. This I don't remember the name of the committee. It's a budget committee of some sort. Ferran, who is Soriano from CFG and New York City FC. I know he was on it. I don't know if he presently is on it, and that's according to The Athletic. They wrote a report a while back and said that Ferran was on this committee that decides on these kind of budget issues, or makes recommendations. I don't know how it all. I have to be honest. I don't know how it all works, but I know, Roberto, that they actually have brought it up again, and are discussing it seriously. And there may be news from what I've heard from a couple of other writers. There may be news, by the summer that something will change, which maybe before the transfer window, that would be good, right?
Well, if it changes for this season as opposed to changing for next year, that would be great. But the other thing is that we know that there are two factions of owners. We have a lot of owners that want to keep the salary cap exactly where it is, and they don't want to spend a hell of a lot of money. And then there are other owners that really want to lift it and want to become teams that can compete not only within MLS and win within MLS, but beat every Mexican team. And, if let's say in the future they start playing Copa Libertadores, they go and they can beat those teams as well. And then also, if whoever qualifies for the new Club World Cup, that they do well. Seattle went there and lost in their first game, 1-0, and they were eliminated. So you want to be able to go and compete not only in this level, but there's international competition as well. And you want to be able to show well in those games.
Roberto, one more thing. I was going to save it until the home opener against Portland when we did our preview of that. But there was a story that I think we should share. The Portland Timbers have terminated their sponsorship deal with DeBella Exteriors after the companies, and I'm reading this right from Ryan Clark's article in the Oregonian, when Donnie McMillan Jr., the CEO, was accused by a former executive of sexually harassing and making unwanted advances toward at least 3 female employees. The Oregonian reported it, and 24 minutes later, the Timbers dropped it. The Timbers say they learned of the allegations Tuesday when the Oregonian was reporting the story and had contacted the team for comment. Now, how about that? So it's just this crazy world we live in, these privileged individuals who feel like they can get away with anything. And so when Portland comes to Yankee Stadium on March the 9th, very likely there'll be nothing on the front of their jersey. No sponsor anymore. Crazy,
wow.
Huh?
So that was their news. That was their front shirt sponsor for this year?
Supposedly.
Sometimes they have a sleeve sponsor as well.
Yeah, I heard it was front shirt.
Because it used to be Providence. Wasn't it Providence, aside from Providence Park, being named? Or I forget. We'd have to see who it is. I'd have to look at a picture right now. So I didn't see Portland play this weekend. So
well, you got to watch it, man. Anthony, their left wing man, the Brazilian, he is something. But Portland, you just think about the things that they've gone through. Gavin Wilkinson.
That's a direct response. That's why it happened that quickly.
Yeah,
for sure.
I mean, they have had some on the women's and the men's side, and how things are handled. Thus, Gavin Wilkinson lost his job because of it. So
it took a long time for that to happen.
Yeah,
they used to have Alaska Airlines on the front of their shirt.
Oh, I remember that. Yeah, I remember that.
Right.
All right.
I haven't seen the 2024 one yet.
It's time. I'm seeing these notes that our guest maybe we may not be able to see him because his camera's not working. I'm not sure, but let's give it a shot anyway. Let's go kicking it around.
No, you've disappeared. Then I was like, wow, this became a better show just like that.
I kicked my light off, and then but we're okay now.
Wow. Okay, I need to say something. Give me a second. DeBella was on the front of their shirt. I just looked it up.
Okay.
And the shirts are gorgeous, by the way.
Well, we'll get a close-up look at the blank. Maybe they'll have another sponsor by then. They'll paint it on that quickly. All right, let's move on to a really, Roberto, at the beginning we're talking about set pieces, and we get all upset. We complain a little bit about this and this, and I'll tell you, when you hear stories like this, that's when you really you want gratification is the first thing I think of, and we complain too much about things that often we can't control, but we shouldn't be complaining anyway. But John Denis, an original member of New York City FC 2, played his first 2 seasons in MLS Next Pro, 4 years out of Columbia University, 19 goals in 64 games for Columbia. Then he went on and played PDL with Red Bulls, U23s, then NISA with the Cosmos before he came into NYCFC 2. First year, he had 14 goals, 3 assists, 5 goals, 6 assists last year. And we talked about, kind of teased, he is a free kick specialist, valued member of the squad at 26 years old. and he recently had his birthday, and right around then is when he found out and was diagnosed with a form of cancer that will get him to specify to the lymphatic system. And while he had not resigned with New York City 2, there were still some things in the works. And but he will, no matter whether he comes back to New York City FC 2 or not, he's a member of the New York City family. And his teammates did this before the opening day match at Charlotte. You know how they stand for the picture, and there's John Dennis' uniform, a tribute to John Dennis, who is battling cancer, and he joins us now on NYCFC Views. Let's get a look at him. There he is, Johnny.
How are
What's
you?
happening?
All good. Can't complain. How about you guys?
Well, if you can't complain, then none of us can. That's what I'm going to say right off the bat.
Absolutely.
John, please maybe tell the story a little bit about how you found out. You know, why were you feeling something, but and then more importantly, specifically what you have and what you're going through right now.
Yeah. So I kind of found out that I had cancer out of luck. I was training in the off season, and after every workout, I'd be a little more fatigued than usual. And later in the day, I would experience like a blurriness in my vision and a migraine. So I went to the ER, and I was like, this is not normal. And they did a head scan of my brain, and they told me I had this condition called AVN, which is when your brain artery and your veins are intertwined, and you need surgery for it. So it's really bad as well. They transferred me to another hospital, and then at that hospital, they did another scan, and they said everything was fine. So this is like after 3 days of testing and stuff, they come back to me and they said the head scan of your brain, we could see from the top that there's like this little tissue lymph node. We don't know what it is, but like it's up to you if you want to like get it checked out. So like my family was like kind of iffy. They wanted to focus more on the brain or like my head, why the migraines are happening. And I was like, you know what? What's the worst thing that can happen? Like, let's check it out. So I get the chest results back, and I'm like, I'm with my family, excited to leave the hospital. I was going to go to preseason and stuff. And the doctor walks in, and she has this like face of like kind of sad, like scared. I was like, oh God, what's happening? And she comes back to me, and she said that they found like a tumor in the middle of my chest. It's like a second heart, almost the size of a heart. And yeah, I was going to have to speak to oncology. So like, it was just out of luck that I found it. Thank God. If I didn't do that test, who knows how big it would have, how much it would have grown and stuff. So I'm thankful for that.
So what are you going through in terms of the recovery or the remission? You know, the different things you're trying to do, you know, on a daily basis, or is it weekly? What's going on?
Yeah. So the chemotherapy, I have to do chemotherapy. I do it basically for a week. And then I have 3 weeks off, and those 3 weeks are testing, blood work. But the chemo's kind of like, I never knew it would have worked like this. It basically is, they give you like a little bag, they connect it to my PICC line, which is like an IV. And I just go about my day with chemo just being put in me for like 2 days straight. Then I have the refilled for another 2 days. And then Sunday, which is like the 5th day, I have it finished at the hospital, and then 3 weeks of just recovery, and then I do that. So ideally, if everything goes according to plan, I'll be done in 5 months. God hoping.
Are you going to have to go through an operation to have the tumor removed? Are you trying to shrink the tumor now for it to be easier to be removed? Is that the situation? So
lymphoma is one of like the better cancers that the chemotherapy really kind of like destroys the tumor, and like your body excretes it. So that's a plus. I'd rather not get surgery.
Yeah.
No, I get that.
So the prognosis is favorable as long as you do the treatments effectively. You're young, you're in shape. I mean, that's got to help a little bit, right?
Yeah, no, I mean, the cancer got me at a good time, I would say. Point where I'm strong and stuff. So the doctors have told me it's treatable, that if I follow the treatment plan, that I should be fine. one of the favorable cancers. I would say so cure rate is very high. So yeah,
95%, 93 to 95%, which
exactly.
is excellent. I mean,
Yeah,
you can't get much better than that.
I was very happy to hear at least that.
Yes.
Well, what about the intertwining thing going on in your brain? What's the status of that?
Yeah, that turned out to be fine. They just said it was like a dilated vein, so like it's nothing severe where it would give you symptoms. So like it was just a scare, basically. That turned out to be fine, thank God.
Yeah.
So hence all the smiles with everything that you're going through, the fact that you know that you're in a good place, that the survival rate is very, very high, and so your prognosis must be very good according to the doctors, I would presume.
Yeah, no, yeah, totally. I mean, life throws twists and turns all the time, and you gotta just do your best to just take it as another obstacle they have to overcome. I've seen people at where I go to an MSK with way worse symptoms, and you just realize like health is the most important thing, and like a support system behind you it means a lot.
As somebody who just survived a heart attack and a quadruple bypass, I get what you're saying. Let me just follow one thing up, Glenn. I just want to say this. So now that you're, hopefully when you're recovered, have the doctors said anything about you're going to be fine health-wise? Are you going to be able to resume your professional soccer career?
Yeah, no, everything, if it goes according to plan, I don't want to like speak about the future. I just want to take it day by day. But if that day comes, which I hope, yeah, I think everything should be back to normal.
What did it mean to you to see the team hold up your jersey?
Oh, it was such a beautiful surprise. It meant so much. I started to tear up a little, but yeah, I didn't expect that. And to see it randomly, I was like, oh my God, that was great.
And we know you're not under contract with the club at the moment, so and the insurance is a little tricky. And I want to put up the GoFundMe page because, I am very comfortable putting this up in support of John and his family. And you've had a goal, and it's listed right there of $125,000. And boy, you're like 3/4 of the way there. So congratulations on that. But for anyone listening or watching that has the means to help out, and I remember a radio host many, many years ago who during fundraising would say, look, some of you can contribute more than others. We know that. But imagine if everybody just put $5 in. And so I think whatever you could possibly handle to help John and his family, that would be a wonderful gesture on your part. But let's talk about the soccer a little bit. I mentioned you're a free kick specialist, and I want to discuss that a little bit because you may or may not have heard us lamenting and Roberto's statistics about the last time a direct free kick goal was scored by the senior team, but the two team, they've had several, and you're one of the guys that scores pretty frequently from dead ball situations. But tell us how, from a training aspect or technique, how do you get that done? What is your what are some, maybe you shed some secrets here?
No, it's a lot of practice for one. You got to just take the time, and it's like it's a practicing your craft like anything. And then I don't know, some tips I like, the things I do is just, I don't know, I think it's like it's you between the keeper. And I try to put it in a spot where I think the keeper is not going to even try to move for the ball. So I think if I do that, and then you just slow down, you do what comes naturally to you. Like if you put enough work in, you just you're in like that flow. Hopefully the ball goes in, or it's a good effort. So,
but yeah, it's not just the keeper. You got to get it up over the wall, under the bar, and past the keeper.
Sure.
So this is it. There are a lot of different parts to that.
Yeah, that's also, I don't want to spill all my secrets, but a lot of times, depending, the league is so physically gifted. Everyone's super tall. They jump 7 feet in the air. Sometimes the easiest thing is just putting past the keeper. Also, the keeper's nerves are I have to get the save. They cheat most of the time. And then they're leaving that big space where they don't have enough time to recover. So a lot of my goals come from their side, and their eagerness to try to make that save.
Yeah.
So I have a couple of questions for you on this. So is there a specific place on the field near the box where you prefer to get, like, this is the ideal place for you? And also, are you right-footed or left-footed? Because that makes a difference.
I'm right-footed.
Okay. So where do you say, oh, this is my spot? What's the ideal spot for you?
I have two spots that I really like. So if you look at the half moon on the 18, I like it on the right side. I don't know why. I don't think it's really natural for a righty to want it on that side, but I like to. I don't know. It's just like I'm very comfortable with it. I think where I used to practice in my house, I used to hit it always from that spot. And I think that's my number one. Or on the other side, similar to like that angle. I think you have a very good, you have both sides, and the keeper is like in no man's land almost. So it's very difficult for them.
So when you're kicking from the right side of the half moon, right, being a right-footed player, that's normally a left-footed placement. So do you try to go around the wall to the near post, or do you try to go over the wall?
I mean, that's very dependent on the keeper's positioning for me. I always go according to where I think the keeper's standing. If I think he's going to move, I'll hit it towards his post. But if I see him well placed, like hugging his post, I'm going to hit it around the wall. And both shots are relatively doable, in my opinion.
Have you ever
do one more? Let me just do one more. Okay. Is there one place where it's the most difficult? Like if it's too close to the box, is there an area that you go, oh God, I wish I didn't have to have a free kick here because it makes it so much harder?
That's a good point. I feel like the ones that are closest to the box, you kind of have the pressure that this should be a good effort. This should go in, but like from a player's perspective or anyone who knows really the game, hitting it over the wall is almost impossible. Like it's got to be a great effort. You can maybe try to hit it under. So like it's going to go keeper's post more than likely if you want it to have at least a good chance. And then the keepers know that as well. So it's got to be perfect. And then also like the semi-far ones can go either way. Like sometimes you're trying to put so much power on it, you mishit it and it bounces to the keeper's hand. So it looks embarrassing. But yeah, I feel like those two in betweens are the tough ones.
How many of those 19 goals that you scored the first 2 years for NYCFC 2 were free kicks?
Oh, I don't know. I think
like half a dozen, right? Half a dozen?
Yeah. It gotta be, it's up there.
And you kind of set it up. Have you ever scored a goal by shooting it under the wall?
No, never. I think my parents would kill. My dad is really on me with the free kicks. He expects it to be a good effort. So if I'm ever to try to hit it under the wall and the wall doesn't jump, I'll look foolish. So I don't want to risk it.
Also, they lay somebody behind the wall now for not every time, but most of those free kicks.
Not everybody.
Usually, yeah. So it's not even
I think that's a crazy tactic.
Yeah. No, it worked. Like the one on Messi too. That was they did that too.
Yeah.
All right, Johnny, Denis, it is wonderful to see you, and just really happy to be able to give you a chance to tell your story a little bit. You're battling this cancer. We'll show the GoFundMe again before the end of the broadcast here, and we wish you all the best during your recovery. We'll stay in touch. Hopefully, you could still work out a bit. Are you still working out?
It's difficult. It's very difficult because of the PICC line. I'm on blood thinner, so there's a bunch of that I have to be careful with. But I try to keep myself in shape. At least diet-wise, it's been clean. So I'm taking care of myself.
All right, so you just have to play FIFA and keep in touch with the tactics, I guess.
That's all I can do. Watch some footy, support the guys, and that's it.
All right, man. Well, good luck with everything. All the best to you and your family.
I appreciate you both so much. Thank you again, and best of luck, and wish you guys the best.
Thanks, Johnny.
Thank you, and thank you for coming on and doing this. And we're here we're over here to support you. And as Glenn said, we're going to show the GoFundMe, and we're going to share it on our socials, and we're going to share it on the socials of the Sick Podcast as well, New York City Views. So
it means the world to me.
Best of luck, and we hope to see you playing soon.
Thank you guys. Bye.
Have a good one, Johnny. Yeah, well, that as far as offering perspective, anytime. I mean, you've gone through something recently, Roberto, but cancer in a young person, it just doesn't seem right.
No,
you know
it's
what I
not.
mean? It just doesn't seem right.
100%. Any disease like that, but especially cancer. No, it shouldn't happen, but sadly it does. And thankfully, he's in New York, and he is in the top hospital for cancer. If he's going to be fine. I think he's going to be fine after all of this. The survival rates, as I said, are very, very high for his type of cancer, especially when they catch it early, which seems to have happened. So, we wish him the best of luck. And we know we're going to see him out on the field soon.
His original description to me was the size of a cell phone, that the tumor. I know he said it was like a second heart, but that was his original description, the size of a cell phone. I mean, unbelievable. All right, let's put the GoFundMe up one more time, please, Sammy, and let everybody get a chance to see Johnny Denis cancer treatment. You Google that, and it pops up, and then make your donation. So
we should be able to share the links for this. We have to find it and share the links ourselves. So on your social media, my social media, and hopefully when we share this podcast, we'll have that on there as well.
Yep.
Okay, Sammy, we'll try to get it to you.
Okay, very good. So we'll have our broadcast on Saturday night of New York City FC at St. Louis. Roberto on the Spanish side, myself on the English side on the New York City FC network. Our airtime will be 8:15 Eastern for the pregame show, and then kickoff. Is it 40 after the hour now? It
seems that's 8:40. Yeah, it's going to be 8:40.
They've added what did they add that extra minute for? What's going on there?
I don't know. Maybe the anthem singer takes longer now. I have no idea.
All right, so kickoff is at 8:40, but tune in at 8:15. And you get the pregame thoughts, and on the English side,
you get Nick.
I get Nick.
Yeah, you have Nick, and I have Andres Perea.
Excellent. Who I fully expect to be in the starting 11, but that's another one to look closely at too. So we'll find out soon, Roberto. For Roberto Abramowitz, I'm Glenn Crooks, Sammy, our producer on NYCFC Views.
And that's a wrap. Hope you don't miss us too much until next time. Follow the Sick Podcast NYCFC Views on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, Google Play, and Apple Podcasts.